Oh, thank goodness! I have been stranded out here all morning. You know how to fix whatever this thing is?
I believe you simply have a loose fusion coil.
Okay, that ought to do it. Give her a try.
How about that? Thanks, friend.
No problem. Wait a minute. You've been out here all morning? We just saw you back at the Starship Phoenix.
Phoenix? What's a phoenix?
Everyone into the ship, now!
Oh, hello, noobs. I'm guessing by now you realize that I am actually...
Stuart Zergo, the universe's most cunning supervillain. Are your feeble minds blown? Does it gnaw at you knowing that I was right under your noses the entire time?
These invasions were devised to get us off the ship. What were you doing here, Zergo?
Oh, just looking for this. The access key to Moron's galactic weather grid.
Oh, yeah. I have the Hall of Knowledge Brainiacs built it into the defense network. It made sure the weather was nice and sunny for my presidential visits.
You spent taxpayer money turning a defense system into a weather device?
That's right. And while you've been rebooting the towers, I've been uploading a worm that grants me complete control over it. Thanks for doing the work for me, losers! Now, before I turn this key and plunge the sector into total chaos...
How about one more delicious bit of deception?
Thank you for calling the Polaris Defense Force. If this is an emergency, or you've been invaded, please press the pound key. Please leave a message.
Yes, this is Copernicus L. Quark. I'm using my galactic weather grid to throw the galaxy into chaos, because I'm a pompous, narcissistic blowhard. If you want to stop me, you'll have to kill me. Semicolon, open parenthesis. I'm out!
Oh, and BT Dubs, I hacked your ship. Enjoy the carnage!
Alright, cadets. Looks like the weather grid has turned Ivaro into an Arctic wonderland. Let's shut down the defense center and return it to its former glory.
Destroy weather beacons to neutralize local weather disturbance. Warning. Severe temperature drop has lured Grungoths to this region.
Welcome back to Planet Ibaro and the hidden city of Balkai. Things are a bit different this time around, even though the location itself has an identical layout. There's quite a bit in the way of new shit for us to do. First of all, in addition to it being snowy, there is a new enemy type, the Grungoth. There are also snowstorms, or rather I should say ice tornadoes, that roam around the stage that we need to avoid, else we'll get frozen. And the objective this time is not to turn on the planetary defense system, but destroy the weather beacons and then destroy the planetary defense system. And yes, this does in fact translate to a difference in gameplay. Oh, I'm sorry, Captain Quark calls the ice storms an ice twister, not an ice tornado. But yeah, they patrol the stage in a set pattern and they're easily avoided with your jet boots. Anyway, the differences in this game, in this level's theming do translate to gameplay differences. There are 10 weather beacons spread all over the map. So instead of going to key nodes this time around, we have to search for all 10 weather beacons and destroy them. And then we have to take on the Planetary Defense Center by taking a bomb to it and blowing it the fuck up. So even though they are reusing a location, I think things are different enough. You're doing the opposite of what you were doing before thematically, and you have a decent narrative reason to be here. So I think it's alright. I understand it might bother a lot of people, and I can't tell those people they're wrong. Here's the first weather beacon. Just gonna blow that up real quick. Need to get 9 more of those, which is more than it seems. Something I should mention about this game that I actually forgot to show off is that if you hang around in the Starship Phoenix before going on a mission, you will see the plumber hanging around in there, and the ship constantly asks if someone aboard has a holo guise activated, which is foreshadowing to the fact that the plumber is just a Zergo wearing a holo guise. So yeah, it isn't as though that twist came out of nowhere. You know, there are perfectly valid foreshadowing cues in place for that if you bother to actually hang around the Starship Phoenix for a little bit. You know, there's a kind of pain in playing a snow level like this while it's so damn hot. Like, it's really hot in my room right now. And I wish the coldness of this level would translate to real life for me, because I would be fine with that right now. It is way too hot. Anyway, about the way we're doing this level. How we're going to do this level is I'm going to show you all the unique things about this level, that being destroying the homing beacons, some of the areas we didn't explore last time we were here, and the new enemy type, the Grungoth, and then we're going to skip to the end where we take a bomb to the Planetary Defense Center. Because this whole level, aside from that, is just me bumming around grabbing collectibles and bolts like previously. So you already saw what the homing beacons are like and what we need to do. We need to blow them up. And I'm going to show off a couple of locations we didn't see before last time we were here. And then I'm going to show the Grungoth. So we're 1/3 of the way done already. I mean, aside from the part where we blow up the Planetary Defense Center. I'm also going to show that off, of course. You may notice that Quark is wearing armor now. That is because you gain experience depending on how well you've explored a level. And exploring a level and getting enough experience allows you to equip armor, which makes you even more overpowered if you want to do that. Oh, also, I think someone in my comments in the last video, I think their name is Ryan Johnson, pointed out that it's very odd for Captain Quark to take a starring role in a game like this, especially given that he's largely incompetent, and whenever he is competent in the series, it's supposed to be something of a surprise. But I think this is because of the tonal shift in Insomniac's writing in regards to Ratchet Clank. Like, yeah, traditional Quark is incredibly incompetent, but they started making Quark steadily more and more competent as the series went on, and Full Frontal Assault is just kind of a hint at his competence in the Ratchet & Clank 2016 reboot, where he is at his most competent and actually isn't so much of a coward. And I'm not really a fan of that. I don't like the idea of Captain Quark starting competent. If you want him to get competent over time through character development, that's a-okay. That's not what's happening here. He's just spontaneously competent for no reason. But if you wanted to do it via character development, that's fine. But the idea of him starting as a competent superhero, I don't think so. Anyway, here we are headed toward that bit that I failed to explore previously, because you have to find a very specific platform to get up here. And then we ride a grind rail all the way to the heavy weapon pod, and that's why we didn't get heavy weapons last time, because I couldn't find the specific platform to fucking get here. But we're here now, and there's some very minor platforming hazards. We can just totally tank these hazards, though, by the way, in case you're curious. You just totally tank him, and there's no downside to that whatsoever. So yeah, this is a pretty important part of the level that you didn't get to see last time, so I thought it was worth sharing. Especially since it's one of the few areas in this game where there's actually a grind rail. There's also a weather beacon here, so it's necessary to come here this time. But I still should have come here last time. I just couldn't find the damn platform. And of course we're getting the plasma bomb launcher again, because why would I want the Warmonger? What is this, you know? In the 2016 reboot, to be fair, the Warmonger is way more interesting. In the game reboot, I mean, not the movie reboot. I say way more interesting, but that's still not glowing praise exactly. Anyway, here's the Grungoth. The Grungoth reminds me a lot of an enemy in a non-canon Ratchet & Clank game. That being Size Matters. The Grungoth looks very similar to a boss in Size Matters that's called Mungo. And the Grungoth behaves in a very similar way to Mungo. Both the Grungoth and Mungo leap at the player, and his leap towards you looks more horrifying than it is because you just have to back up in order to not get hurt. Mungo is far more interesting to fight and a lot more hectic than the Grungoths, as is to be expected considering Mungo is a boss battle. It's a really fun boss battle though, like really fun. Anyway, that's the Grungoth. Alright, and now comes the part where we escort a bomb to the Planetary Defense Center. Excuse me, let me try that again. Now comes the part where we escort the bomb to the Planetary Defense Center. The bomb does have a health bar. It's not that hard to defend, though. Really don't have to worry too much about that. I do like that new barriers are erected and new enemies appear to stop the bomb from reaching the defense center. But, aside from that, there's not too much to talk about. It's the same kind of third-person shooting you've seen elsewhere in the game. It's fairly well done, it's satisfying, and it's a reasonable change of pace from the previous levels, given that you're meeting more resistance than before. Anyway, I already brought up Size Matters, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more. Size Matters definitely has the absolute worst story I've seen in any Ratchet & Clank video game. It is really bad. It is full of weird plot holes, and the main villain's plan makes absolutely no sense, and the characters behave in a very strange fashion, even by Insomniac standards. Granted, the game was not developed by Insomniac, which may have something to do with why the writing is so much worse. The game as a whole, like the gameplay, is pretty great. Just the story is, hoo boy, it sure is something. It's roughly the same quality as a low-budget European children's film. I'm sorry, a low-budget European animated children's film is what I meant to say. I've watched a lot of those. There are a lot of those on Netflix, if you're curious. I don't recommend it. But, there's a lot of things wrong with it. Too much to talk about here. A lot of things wrong with the story. But the thing that stuck out most about the story is just how completely unnecessary, convoluted, and moronic the main villain's plan is. And he's not moronic and convoluted on purpose. He's actually supposed to be fairly smart and calculating. But his plan is just utterly ridiculous. Okay, so let's detail it out here. His plan is very simple. It's knock Ratchet unconscious, take Ratchet's DNA, and build a clone army using Ratchet's DNA. Really simple. But let's go through the actual steps he uses while initiating this plan. Let me bring up the notepad file here. Step 1. Build a small child robot that can easily pass for a real child. Step 2. Send the robot to interrupt Ratchet's vacation under the guise of needing help from Ratchet for a school project. Step 3. Have the robot get kidnapped by your own soldiers, so Ratchet tries to rescue her. Step 4. While she's kidnapped, leave a single clue that Ratchet himself doesn't even take seriously, leading Clank to find your old base of operations, activate your old galaxy map, and track the robot to one of your newer bases. Side Step 1. Plant false evidence that you are Quark's true parent. Step 4. Let Ratchet destroy a lot of things and fight a giant monster boss of unknown origin, because you don't build monsters, you build giant robots. Step 5. When Ratchet rescues the robot, then finally knock him unconscious and transport him elsewhere to take his DNA. And Step X, instead of killing Clank, just throw him somewhere so he can free Ratchet later. It is so beautiful in its absurdity, and in case you're wondering where Side Step 1 goes, that thing about planting false evidence about being Quark's parent, doesn't go anywhere. There is literally no reason for him to do that at all, except for him to stick around in the story more, because they have a Quark quota to fill. There is no benefit at all to the main villain having Quark think that he is his true parent. No benefit! There are a lot more things wrong with the story than just that. Like, almost every cutscene relevant to the plot has something wrong with it in some way. And it's incredible how if they would have just tried less hard to make a story, it would have turned out less shitty. But the story is really bad, and it's hilarious. So yeah, size matters story. It's no good. I think the gameplay is alright. The gameplay is the highlight of the game. The shooting, not so much, but the actual like platforming and puzzle solving, yeah, that's pretty good. They put a lot of effort into creating varied, unique environments for the game, a lot of fun set pieces, and they did a better job exploring the platforming mechanics than canon Ratchet & Clank games. So, you know, as far as platforming, puzzle solving, and environmental variety goes, Size Matters is definitely a winner. The shooting and the story, not so much, but I think the game is still worth playing. I've played both the PSP original and the PS2 port. I do recommend the PS2 port. Not only does it look better graphically, but the controls are better. The controls are still not on par with a mainline Ratchet game, because, you know, it is a port of a PSP game, but the controls are better. The controls in the PSP version are straight ass, and I cannot recommend the PSP version for that reason. You know, you might be turned off by the fact that you can't just point the cursor where you want to shoot like you can in Deadlocked. But the controls work okay. The game is built around having this weird control scheme made for PSP, but it still works better on PS2 because of the right stick. Anyway, this time we have to defend the bomb instead of defending our base. So that's an interesting change of pace. Thankfully, we are fucking overflowing with bolts, as you can see. We have all of the bolts anyone has ever had in any Ratchet & Clank game. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but that's the point. That's a humor technique known as hyperbole for those uninitiated. But yes, if you're going to play Size Matters, play the PS2 version. Anyway, we are stocked up on fucking warmonger turrets, so we're going to absolutely annihilate anything that comes this way, without so much as a flinch. Let's turn on that bomb now. There we go. We just have to defend the bomb for 2 minutes, and that's not going to be a fucking problem at all. We got this. Absolutely 100% no issues. So yeah, this level's fun. It's significantly different from the last time you visited. The change in theme, you're doing pretty much the opposite of what you were doing before. That's nice. I don't know where I got so many fucking bolts from, but the original length of this video was 50 minutes. So I think maybe I got these extra bolts somewhere in that 30 minutes we skipped. I think maybe is where these bolts came from. Pretty sure. But yeah, defending the bomb for this long is no problem at all. Especially with all these bolts and these warmonger turrets and all this other shit. We have 2 heavy weapons this time. And 3 disco mines. What are those called? Groovitron. 3 Groovitron mines. We got this handled. This is the second to last level, by the way. The next level is the last one. And the next level also is, well, it's more of a linear, traditional Ratchet & Clank style level. There's not really any tower defensing in it. We just go confront Zurgo. We're done with the tower defense stuff, pretty much. After these 40 seconds are up, these upcoming 40 seconds, then we're done. with tower defense stuff, and we just go confront Zurgo directly. This is a reasonable climax to the tower defense mechanics, though, because this is a lot of fucking enemies. In case you can't tell, there's a lot of enemies here. But we are more than prepared.
Turret destroyed. Destroyed. Warning. Reformatting device taking damage. Reformat sequence completed. Return to Starship Phoenix 2 for mission update.